have returned. 2024.
New year, baby.
New year's, new phone, who dis? No, excited to be back. Hope everybody had an amazing year's holiday season in general. And we got a ton to get to, man.
So much.
An absolute overload to get to.
What a break. What a great break.
There's a big smile on your face, huh?
Yeah.
Air.
Just a little.
Tastes a little.
I feel like you woke up
pressure.
in song.
The birds were singing.
Yeah.
Like it was like this, like a Disney soundtrack in your life.
They put the over-under at 5.5 hours I slept last night. Hope you took the under.
Yeah, we did.
You stared at the ceiling with a smile on your face.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Definitely. Michigan beats Alabama and Washington tops Texas to set the stage for an epic championship showdown in Houston. Tennessee's freshman quarterback shined in his first start, and Russell Wilson gets benched in Denver. I'm Jake Crane. Happy New Year, and welcome to the 2024 edition of Crane & Company. Now, as the final play ended in the Alabama-Michigan game last night in overtime, Wolverine fans rejoiced at finally winning a playoff game, albeit in a fashion that definitely took some years off their lives. But make no mistake, this core and group did not come back just to beat Ohio State again and win the Big Ten. They did not come back just to make the college football playoff or win a game in the college football playoff. They came back to win a national championship and put Michigan's name once again at the top of the college football mountain. But that goal is still 4 quarters away. So don't celebrate yet, because they are going to face a Washington team that doesn't have the letters SEC on their chest, but they do have a few guys with just an S. And Michael Penix, who throws more frozen ropes than Sub-Zero, is the main one of the bunch. Now, this matchup stylistically is about as far away on the spectrum as it gets from one another. One team is a smash-mouth, downhill run game team that lives off play action and defense. The other is a team that typically passes to run. And even though that's the case, don't confuse air superiority with softness. The Huskies can run it when they have to, and defensively, they hit with a vengeance. We've seen that. Now, which side will flinch? Well, let's break it down, because either way, it's going to be a doozy. I'm going to bring in my former Michigan quarterback, now getting ready to finally see his team play for a national championship, David Cohn. My brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane. David, I want to break down both of these games from last night. But just from a 30,000-foot view, how rewarding was last night being a Michigan fan that the last 2 years have watched the team get there, lose a game that they were really supposed to lose against a juggernaut Georgia team, and then lose a game against a TCU team that kind of snuck them a little bit, but you got over the hump, and you did it coming back in the last 4 minutes and then an over.
Yeah, it was really incredible, and I know we're going to recap both of those semifinal games last night, but just from a personal perspective, you know, that program believed in me coming out of high school when all I wanted to do was play college football. They gave me a shot. So to see them in this position to play for a national championship for the first time before I was ever even affiliated with this university is incredible. And yesterday was some of the most fun I've had watching football in a long time, and it wasn't just about Michigan winning. We had an awesome playoff, and we said for an entire month, Florida State, without a doubt, deserved an opportunity to be in that college football playoff. But when they put Alabama in there instead, we all knew it was going to create very compelling matchups, no matter how they ordered it. Well, that's what we got. In that Michigan-Alabama game going to overtime, then we got Washington-Texas coming down to a wire. It was awesome football to watch, and the best team of the bunch to me was Washington, with the best player on the field, Michael Penix Jr. Whatever he wants to do with the football, he does. I think he's the best pure passer of the ball that I can remember in the last half decade. I'm going to put Joe Burrow up there as well, but whatever he wants to do with the football, he does. I noticed this at Indiana. But he had some injuries he was dealing with. He transfers to Washington, and to see the type of year they've had has been incredible. I had him in my college football playoff, and yet they've still exceeded all the expectations I have. I think the matchup is going to be fascinating. They had a 65% dropback percentage through the first half of the season. Like you said, throwing to run the football, but then on the back half, Dylan Johnson averaged 135 yards on the ground. They had over a 100-yard rusher when they played Oregon, and in the conference championship again when they played Oregon. Yesterday, they beat a Texas team that really down the stretch of the season looked almost unbeatable. I think two things here, one that benefits Washington, one that benefits Michigan. For the last couple years, what's the hump that Michigan has had to get over? It was beating Ohio, because you can't even beat your rival. So when they finally did that 2 seasons ago, they exhaled, and you get drummed by Georgia. Well, last year, what was the hump you couldn't get over? Beating Ohio on the road. You did that, you exhaled, you overlooked TCU, you got beat. That created a new hump to get over for Michigan. Winning a college football playoff game. You did that yesterday. I'm wondering, does this team exhale now and see, oh, Washington, we got the easiest possible draw in the championship. We've already accomplished what we set out to do, which was win a college football playoff game. Do they exhale before they finish and win a national championship? But then on the flip side of that, I think they already played their tight game. They played as tight as they could yesterday, which I know we're going to break down. I don't think you'll see some of the same mistakes again. And if they're able to do what their strength and their identity is, which is run the football, they'll keep that really great quarterback, Michael Penix Jr., on the sideline more so than Texas was able to do yesterday, who ran 5 plays in the third quarter.
Yeah, without a doubt, and we're going to dive deep into what happened in those games yesterday. But you bring up a great point talking about this matchup, and you look, we always say styles make fights. Styles make fights. What I find fascinating is that Washington is the most physical finesse team that I've ever seen. You know, you think about an offensive line winning the Joe Moore Award, and you think about Georgia, and you think about Bama, and these offensive lines where they're downhill run, and they want to get in 11, 12 personnel, run power and run counter. The thing I find the most interesting about Washington is their versatility through really what has been mostly an air raid situation out there until they have needed it in the playoff. You have got to be able to, at some point, dribble with your left hand in these games. You're not going to be able to just line up and do what you've done the whole year, because typically up front, it's a lot more even than it is with some of these top teams because the game is won and lost up front. And I always say that the fastest way to get in between 2 points isn't a straight line. It's give Michael Penix a football and let him throw it. When you watch what Michigan is going to try and do against Washington, I think Michigan's going to be able to line up and run the ball against Washington. I don't think so. Texas ran it enough yesterday.
Yeah.
The run game was really working. Yeah, you have a guy in Quinn Ewers. We're going to get to Michigan, like I said, against Alabama, and their lack of running the ball in the first half too. But I don't think Michigan is going to get too cute against Washington. Washington's got to stop the run. It's pretty simple. You got to make J.J. McCarthy beat you. Because I still don't think J.J. McCarthy can beat you through the air if you're a legitimate defense.
Yeah.
I think there's some questions. Going back to the first play from last night when he threw it straight to Caleb Downs when his first read was wide open, talking about J.J. McCarthy. But when I look at Washington offensively going up against Michigan, I was very impressed by the way Michigan was able to cover in the back end when Jalen Milroe had time, and the couple times he was able to get outside the pocket and look downfield. Alabama typically gets their big plays there. They hit Georgia a couple times there. But Blaine, when I look at this Washington offense going against Michigan's defense, the key is, can Michigan get to Michael Penix? Because you're not covering all 3 of those guys all game if he has time.
You can't.
And he can make every single throw. The hashes don't matter. He can be on one hash, throw it to the bottom of the numbers on the other one, whether it's the NFL or whether it's college. That's his best weapon, is his ability, talking about Penix, to not only make every throw from a strength standpoint. Yes, he's got a big arm. He can throw it down the field. But he's what everybody wanted Joe Milton to be. He's got an absolute cannon, but he's got nuance. He can drop it in the bucket. He can throw the lollipop screen. To put it very bluntly and very plainly, Michael Penix has every pitch. He can control every pitch and every count. And when you can do that, it makes you so much more dangerous. And then that run game with Dylan Johnson and those guys can come downhill. And that Washington offensive line pass protects so well. So when you look at this game, give me a key for Michigan and give me a key for Washington.
My key for Michigan is getting pressure, but not pressure by blitzing. And how do you get your pressure? I think if you let Michael Penix sit in the pocket, right, all day, he will pick you apart. Michael can make all the throws, we know that, but we're going to try to at least make it hard on him at least. And how do you do that? And I think they did a great job against Alabama. That's interior pressure, right? That's pressure coming up the middle. You make Michael have to get outside and throw balls on the run, which I know he can do, but that is a little bit tougher. I thought Michigan did a great job in that game versus Alabama blitzing, but when they blitzed, they got to Jalen Monroe through the middle, and they couldn't outrun him to the sidelines. And if you can do that, if you're Michigan, because I don't think you're going to be able to blitz Michael Penix a lot like you did in Alabama. He will hurt you a lot worse than what Jalen Monroe do. If you can do that, if you can get him outside, you can get him making these tough throws, which we've seen him do, but at least make it hard on him. Because if you let him sit in the pocket and step up and you only bring 4 with the cats that he has running around outside of receiver, he will pick you apart. And if this gets into a shootout, that plays into Washington's hands, and that's the last thing Michigan wants to do.
Well, and again, we want to know what you think. We're going to open the phone lines up, 7:15 a.m. Central, 8:15 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're in the chat, please hit that like button. It doesn't take a lot to do. We really appreciate it. It helps out the show. We're going to drop a link to merch in there as well, which also helps out the show. I will say, if I'm Michigan and I'm Minter, I'm the defensive coordinator, I do think there is a little bit of a weakness that can be exploited over time in what Washington does offensively and what Michael Penix wants to do. I am a firm believer, and there are very few quarterbacks in the world, especially ones with big arms, that get told how strong their arm is, that will nickel and dime you down the field the whole time. If I'm Michigan, I know at some point with Rome, with Polk, with McMillan, Michael Penix wants to fire the flamethrower in front of God and everybody, especially in the national championship game.
Yeah.
Do you play umbrella coverage as much as possible and make Michael Penix throw the hitch, throw the slant, throw the dig? If you're going to beat me, you're going to beat me throwing passes 12 yards and under. You're not going to beat me because, hey, you threw a couple underneath. We wanted to come up, play press man, and here goes Rome down the field, and you're able to throw it 800 yards, and he outruns everybody. Or you hit McMillan or Polk on the post or something like that. I wonder if that's going to go in the methodology a little bit, because at some point, and I'm a firm believer in this, offensive coordinators and quarterbacks are the most greedy people on the planet, and the ones that are the best in the world. Because again, Washington's a pass-to-run team still. Let's not make some, like Washington's going to get in the eye and just start running insert and ISO and stuff like that. Do you sit here and make Michael Penix take the 5 yards, and see if he will get greedy, as opposed to, look, you got to mix it up. You got to rush 4. You got to bring pressure. You got to show pressure and back out. You got to show pressure and bring it. You want to mix. You want combo coverages. You want man. You want zone. But I wonder if that's going to go into the thought process a little bit. Because I don't think there's not a weakness other than that, man. Yeah. Like, there's really not. Like, you look at it like they're not bad up front. Yeah. They've got elite skill players. They're good in the red zone. They can affect you in all 3 levels. At some point, if it make a death by 1,000 cuts, will Michael Penix kill you with a death by 1,000 cuts? Because I know he wants to take that spear and just jam it in you from the jump. That's something I'll be very interested in.
Well, I think Jesse Minter, the Michigan defensive coordinator, is certainly going to mix it up, but you will certainly see rush 3, drop 8 be more a part of his bag than you did against Alabama for a few reasons. One, Michael Penix Jr. is going to be able to get to his hot routes a little bit more consistently and quicker than a younger quarterback like Jalen Monroe was able to. And the second reason for what you talked about, Blaine, is that Washington offensive line. I mean, they've allowed 11 sacks this season. For a team that has a 65% drop back percentage that wants to run to pass, 11 sacks, this game will feature the last 3 offensive lines to win the Joe Moore Award. Michigan 2 years in a row, and then Washington this year. So if your plan is to just heat Michael Penix Jr. up every single play and you don't get home, be very careful because, and plus, what are you playing on the back end of that? Are you straight man? Are you running fire zone? All those sorts of things. One thing I find interesting here right now as we sit here, the line is -4.5 Michigan, over under 55. If Washington had a USC logo on the side of their helmet, or even an Oregon logo on the side of their helmet, with what they've done throughout the season, being undefeated, high-powered offense, being more physical than a lot of people expected, would this line be tighter or maybe even down to a pick'em?
No, well, I would have said that if the line wasn't Michigan -1.5 against Alabama. I was shocked that Bama wasn't favored in that game.
Me too.
I know a lot of the money from the public was on Alabama, and it was that way for a reason. I think, going into this, if you looked at Washington, Washington done nothing but overcome adversity in big games, right? I picked against them twice against Oregon. Every time Washington has been challenged this year, they have answered the bell. And it hasn't just all been flash, right? You've had games where they won low scoring. I think they beat Arizona 15-7, something like that. So after seeing Michigan still being favored against Alabama, I know it was the 1 seed versus the 4 seed, right? But again, in reality, I think a lot of people thought Alabama was going to win that game, and the money showed out. No, I don't. I think Washington's past that point with this team. And looking at what, Michigan being favored over Alabama, I actually don't. Now, I love the over in this game.
No, I like the line too, but God, man, it's tough to bet against this Washington team. I'm done doing it.
Yeah.
I'm done doing it. Every time I took them 3.5 yesterday because what was Texas's weakness was their secondary, right? So I know Michael Penix, these guys would have had a field day, and that is what they did. But no, man, I'm done betting against this Washington team.
This will be a conference matchup moving forward, by the way.
No, it is. Yes, all Big Ten national championship. Too, another point, looking at Washington and what they're going to do against Michigan, it's something where the red zone, we know how important it is. Being able to line up and run in the red zone is. Michael Penix moving him in the pocket. I wonder how much of that you're going to get once you get down in the red zone, because typically if you're not a team that runs it a lot, or that's not your bag, when you get down there, you've got to find a way to create space when the field shrinks. I think by moving Michael Penix, and that's where the arm strength comes in again. Rolling, to his arm side, to his left, obviously he's unbelievably strong. But even at times where he's having to move against his arm and go the other way, the throws he can make back across the field, when you have crossers in the red zone and things like that, when you're getting match coverage, which you get a lot of, we used to call it red 7 in the red zone, being able to cause those picks and cause those crossers. What kind of coverage are you running if you're Michigan on the back end? There's so much that goes into it. But the number, we can't forget, Washington is an old team. This is an old team.
Yeah.
That's a huge advantage, right? I mean, Michigan, this is an old team.
Yeah.
Experience is the unteachable intangible. To send a bunch of young guys that are just running there, flying by the seat of their pants, just too, what do we say, that they're too young to realize they shouldn't be winning? That's not this game.
No.
This is a bunch of old guys. Michael Penix, 45 years old.
Yeah.
Like this is a bunch of old guys playing against each other, which I think should make a clean game. I love the over at 55. I love it.
Too. You took over yesterday, Washington, Texas.
Yep.
That was your lock yesterday.
That was my lock yesterday, and it ended up hitting at 68. I was 4-2 yesterday, which, by the way, unbelievable betting year. You put out the graphic. It's absolutely incredible.
You got more units than an apartment complex.
I mean, you're basically building a complex.
But you're right on Michigan's. Their best unit, their most improved unit over this last 3-year winning spree has been their secondary. There was a time not that long ago, if you put the ball up in the air, I'm talking especially against some of those Urban Meyer teams, if you put the ball up in the air deep, it was either going to be complete for a big play or pass interference on Michigan. That's no longer the case. They'll have their hands full against 3 wide receivers in this game that are all going to play in the NFL. The question is, can you get enough pressure to offset that? And still, to me, the biggest thing, the best thing you can do for Michigan's defense is have long, sustained drives on offense.
And that's keeping the other offense off the field. I think the new clock rule is going to be, Michigan's obviously going to try and use it to their advantage. But when it comes to having the 3 weapons, it's like guarding the Warriors. You can't double everybody.
Yeah,
somebody's going to be open for the 3. You better just hope they don't knock it down.
And when it comes to units, let's just make sure we're out here catching punts. If you're Michigan,
I want to get into that.
I think that was a one-time. They panicked and they got away with it.
Yeah, Noah's never dropped a punt. We know a lot of you guys were having watch parties last night. Probably had a really good time. Maybe had a drink or two. All right, but if you want to make sure that next morning you're back ready to go, we know there are a lot of people dragging this morning. We know there was a lot. All right, I'm not talking about Flamin' Dragon. I'm talking about dragging in general. Our friends over at Z-Biotics, they have you absolutely covered. If you had a few drinks last night, you may not be feeling great this morning, but if you drank Z-Biotics, which you drink before, right? You take it before you go out, you'd be feeling just fine. Amazing. I'm not going to say the H word. We all know what it is. All right, we know sometimes there's some bad mornings that follow some good nights. But Z-Biotics, it's a pre-alcohol probiotic. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct. This fights it. It's not dehydration that makes you feel bad. It's this byproduct. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this down. I'm telling you guys, this thing works. It's magic. It's the closest thing to magic we have. It's that and Gandalf's fireworks. All right, but just remember, drink Z-Biotics before you drink alcohol, and drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. I've used it. We've all used it. I will not go out and have a couple cold sodas. I will not go over to Cones and watch the game if I do not take my Z-Biotics. So go to zbiotics.com. That's zbiotics.com/booster to get 15% off your first order with code BOOSTER at checkout. It's backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, which you won't be, they'll refund your money. That's zbiotics.com/booster. Use that code BOOSTER. It's BOOSTER at checkout for 15% off your first order. It's absolutely amazing product. Again, closest thing to magic that I've ever seen. All right, David, let's get into Michigan, Bama. Okay, we'll go around the table, then we'll go Texas, Washington, then we'll get into a little bit of right and wrong here. But the game last night, just what did you see good? What did you see bad? Just overall thoughts.
First of all, I want to thank you personally for coming over and supporting me in my time of need. Your brother showed up for me yesterday.
My wife was in rare form last. She's an Alabama fan. She was in rare.
I'm not saying he was actively pulling for Michigan, but he was a shoulder that I needed to lean on when his wife and my wife were sitting back there feeding us in all Alabama gear. And even had the little ones.
Yeah, no, Reed was in rare form last. She told me on the car on the way over there. She was like, "No, you have to cheer for Alabama." I was like, "Reed, I'm watching the game. I'm digesting the game. I'm not cheering for anyone. I just want it to be a good game." That wasn't good enough.
How was the car ride home? You're here.
Quiet.
You're here.
Quiet.
Here's what
I just kept telling her how good the food was.
Yeah, which it was. It was phenomenal.
Such a great game.
Here's what I'll say. About this Michigan and Alabama game. If you want to be the man, you've got to beat the man. How many times have we said that? And Nick Saban, without a doubt, is the man. Alabama is the man. Every program for the last decade and a half that's had success on the national stage has had to get over the Alabama hump. Auburn and Cam, what were they down 24-0 at halftime? Had to get over that hump. Dabo Swinney and Clemson had to do it. They did it twice. Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes, they had to get over the Alabama hump with a third-string quarterback. 2019 LSU had to go to Tuscaloosa. I was at that game. They won it. Even this year's Texas team to make the playoff had to go to Tuscaloosa and win. Georgia, loss after loss after loss against Alabama. Finally, they get over that hump. They win their first national championship in 40 years. Michigan got that opportunity yesterday, and for most of the game, the moment looked too big for them. Special teams, I haven't seen Michigan make a special teams blunder this entire season, and it got so bad, you and I were wondering if they could make a PAT to even force overtime. All of that being said, it was almost even more impressive that they won an ugly game. What travels when you're in a dogfight? Defense, and that unit delivered drive after drive. What else travels? Your senior running back, when you needed it most, the guy who came back. You said it best, Jake, when Alabama came back and won the Iron Bowl. Alabama played as badly as they possibly could, and they still found a way to win the game because the most elite teams, the best of the best, they find ways to win when they've played terrible the entire evening. They never waver in their belief to win a football game. So anybody can win when it's pretty. Anybody can win when they play perfectly. Michigan played far from that. J.J. McCarthy missed a bunch of throws that ended drives. Michigan still found a way in overtime to beat the juggernaut that you had to get over. After everyone said your schedule was too easy. Then they said you were cheaters. Then they said you couldn't beat Ohio 3 years in a row. Then they said there's no way you can beat an SEC team and win a college football playoff game. After all of that, there's only one thing left to do now.
Yeah.
Go win the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm going to start on the Alabama side, and I'm going to start with the bad. The play calling in the first half was baffling to me. It looked like pre-LSU Alabama. That's what it looked like to me. You were not moving Jalen Milroe. You were not running Jalen Milroe. It was almost like Alabama wanted to prove the point that, hey, Jalen Milroe is a pocket passer. We can line up and Jalen Milroe can beat you from the pocket. Don't forget, before the LSU game this year, because they knew they probably would have to score 50 points to beat LSU with the way that offense was playing, Alabama was fitting a square peg in a round hole with Jalen Milroe. I don't know why they did that, but in the first half, I was shocked at the play calling. Shocked. It's almost like Bill O'Brien saying that about Jalen Milroe flipped a trigger back with Tommy Rees and this offense being like, well, we're going to prove that Jalen Milroe is a pocket passing quarterback that just happens to be a great runner. That's not who Jalen Milroe is. Not only that, Michigan was able to get pressure from the interior of the pocket, right? But even after they were doing that early, I'm talking about after the first play, right? When they went and got him up the middle, Alabama still didn't move the pocket until the second half. Second half Alabama offense from a play calling standpoint and a schematic standpoint was totally different. That was the Alabama offense that we saw. And what happened? You saw more big plays. You saw Jalen Milroe be effective. I am just shocked that Alabama went into that first half and reverted back. It shocked me, right? It really actually did. On the Michigan side, on the bad in the first half, you were running the ball down Alabama's throat. Your right hand was working. They knew you wanted to go right, and you were still able to go right and score, and then you just started going left. It's like they'd rip off a run for, and I'm not saying you run it every play just because you run it for 7 yards, but the second drive, Michigan had the ball. You pop them for 2 runs, 1 for 6, 1 for 11, then you throw it 3 times. After the first play of the game where J.J. McCarthy throws it right to Caleb Downs on a play where the read's wide open and you didn't throw it, and then you worked back and threw it right to the guy that sunk. They made a China call on it, and he sucked back and picked it off. So those are the 2 things. It was called getting cute. I felt like both sides got cute. And when you get cute, it turns ugly. It'll always be that way. But in the second half, you saw adjustments. You saw Alabama adjust. The one thing that stayed consistent, in my opinion, for both teams for the most part in that game was defensively, right? And it came down to the fourth quarter and each team having to make a drive. Yeah. Michigan got the ball last, and they made the plays. It was, and everybody was like, oh, me and you commented this during the game. The 4th and 2 that Michigan went for, they had to go for that.
I don't know why that was.
They were like, oh, what a ballsy move by Jim Harbaugh. There's 3 minutes and 19 seconds to go. Yes, you've got 3 timeouts. You kick that ball to Bama with Jalen Milroe running, you're not getting it back.
You don't get it back.
But you can't take that chance. I would rather go home swinging than go home punting it and giving them a chance. And you're able to hit that play with Corum. You get to block
which
in the
they
back,
still got to block in the back.
But another thing, and I understand, you do what got you there. I'm not saying you totally change who you are. I thought they did that on offense, both of them, and it screwed up in the first half. But you saw Alabama not change up defensively on crucial downs, especially third and passing downs, or obvious passing downs. Alabama stuck in man way too long, in my opinion. That's Michigan's only shot. What happened when Alabama went zone? They shut them down. Michigan could not figure it out. They could not find a way to beat zone. They were beating man with crossers in the red zone. Then on that last drive, Alabama went back to man. I know they're a 2-man team in third and passing, but it's almost like the Ohio State-Michigan game last year, where Michigan, the only way they were hitting big plays, if you got them in zero or you got them in man and it was one-on-one and they were able to throw the ball down the field or one guy slipped or one guy made a bad step. That's where Michigan got Bama in the back end. So I was shocked that Bama didn't adjust and play more zone. I know that's not who they are, but sometimes you do have to be a little bit of a chameleon when something is not working. But there were some points where I was very surprised, but at the end of the day, I think experience won out. That's what I think. I think Michigan didn't panic. I think they didn't panic up front. And that last drive, you saw them, right, make the plays when they had it. Roman Wilson, what an incredible catch on the tip pass. And look, you've got to catch some breaks. You've got to, but Bama caught some breaks. Michigan was awful on special teams. Then they put, the white guy back to catch the punt, and then he almost blows it. I mean, I was hurting for you over there, scared to death. But I was shocked schematically.
I could not believe what I was watching on the TV.
I was shocked. I was just shocked schematically at some things throughout that game.
What do you think?
God, the thing about me was, the one thing I was worried about somewhat, if you go through, I don't know how much adversity Michigan's faced on the field throughout their schedule. You go through Michigan games most of the times, they're always the one to throw the first punch.
They hadn't trailed in the second half.
Yeah, they're usually the one who always throws the first punch. They never panic. And that's what I was worried about. The one thing I point out and the one thing I look at when I come back to this game, and you brought it up, and I think it's experience. In that last drive, when you needed it most, your guys came through. When all the pressure was built, when that bomb was about to go off, your guys, I saw no panic.
No panic.
Zero panic. In J.J. McCarthy's face or any player on this Michigan team, they knew that they were about to go score a touchdown and attempt to win this football game. And that's huge for those players, and that's huge for Jim Harbaugh because they looked adversity in the face and weren't afraid of it. Right? If you're Alabama, the couple things that I agree with you you did not run Jalen enough at all, in my opinion. I think you came out the first 2 drives, you threw it 6 times in a row.
What are you doing?
I'll never understand that. And for all the people coming out here going for Tommy Rees's head for that last play, go look at that last play. The play call wasn't bad, in my opinion. You had the running back on the swing. The snap was low to the right. He couldn't get there. If Jalen Monroe follows that puller, he's walking in the end zone. Walking in the end zone. So in my opinion, that's panic. That's panic from Jalen Monroe. But Michigan, you won an ugly football game. Mm-hmm. You did everything, in my opinion, to lose this football game. But you still found a way to win. And that's depth, that's experience, and that's belief, and that's the villain card, which Michigan's been playing.
Well, I think Michigan won that game despite J.J. McCarthy, to be honest with you.
Yes.
I think J.J. McCarthy missed a couple wide open guys. I thought he made some very questionable decisions. But that one play he made on the throwback where he caught that ball with one hand.
Yeah.
And then that athleticism was incredible. We are going to get to the Booster Club here in 1 second. But here's another thing. How has Alabama played this many games and you still can't get a snap? How does that happen? Mm-hmm. In the biggest moments.
Yeah.
Go back to the Iron Bowl. Go back to the Texas game.
Yeah.
Week 2. Alabama can't snap the ball. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And listen, early in the year, we got a new center, new quarterback. It happens every now and then. I watch guys in the NFL drop snaps under center. But it seems that Alabama, in the most crucial moments, can't get a snap. You can't do the most simple. You can do all these complex things, but you can't do the most simple thing. And that shocked me. Mm-hmm. That shocked me. But let's get to the Booster Club.
All right, let's go to CG87343 with a $20 donation. Appreciate it, brother. Happy New Year. Hope you are doing well. Appreciate it. Saw both games. Both had thrilling endings. What was a momentum swing for Michigan? I'd say the fumble. Also, what happened with that 4th and goal? Bad snap. But what did you think of the play call?
Okay. I would say the turning point for each game, I think that fumble kept Michigan in the game.
Even though you didn't score on that.
Even if you didn't score.
It was huge.
It made it so that when Alabama kicked that field goal, it was still only a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Right? Because remember, Michigan missed that extra point, right, which was massive. 17-13 is a whole hell of a lot different than 17-14 is. You don't have to be a mathematician to figure that out. I think, the turning point, I think, in the Washington-Texas game, I feel like the fumbled punt by Washington, it kind of made you feel like, all right, hey, Texas may catch some breaks. Texas may be able to come back and win this game. But I thought Washington answered the tip pass touchdown right before halftime to give them that lead, to keep giving them that momentum. And then they obviously never gave the lead up, even though Texas was able to, blank them 10-0 there in the third quarter. Washington was still able to find a way. As far as the play call, remember, there was a timeout taken by each team before that last play. So Alabama came up, and I tweeted this, and I looked at David. I said, if it was me and I was Tommy Rees, I would run bluff here, right, off split zone. Or give him which technically is an RPO, the way you put it out. I mean, you put the back on the opposite side as the tight end. You fake the handoff to the back. The tight end splits like he's going to go block and seal them the line of scrimmage. He bluffed. Michigan scored on it. Michigan just scored on it earlier. That way, it gives you a couple options. If Jalen Monroe wants to take off and run it, he can. If he wants to spit it out to the tight end who is coming on the bluff, he can. It puts the defense in a bind because what do? You go try and take that guy on. Jalen Monroe comes underneath you, let him go, and you hit the tight end. I didn't hate the call. I'm going to go down with my best player. Jalen Monroe, I think, is Alabama's best player on offense. I really think he is. I think he's the guy that you want to have the ball at the end of the day. And they gave it to him. And I agree. You go back and look at what Blaine said. He just went and buried his head. He tried. Earlier that drive, they ran Q counter.
To the boundary. Where they had the most success.
And he just muscled his way through there.
Yeah.
Remember, big momentum play down there. I think Jalen Monroe thought he was about to big dog Michigan into the end zone. Instead of following his puller, which there was an alley underneath where it had been him, and I can't remember if it was the nickel, right, or the safety. It had been him and the safety in the hole. And I'm going to take Jalen Monroe every time to make the safety miss and score. But he went and buried his head. I didn't mind the play call. I think they were going to go with bluff because they lined up to run it. And Michigan called timeout. Yeah. Then I think Bama lined up wrong because Bama came out and the tight end and the running back were on the same side. And they instantly called timeout. And Nick Saban was freaking out on the sideline because I think the running back lined up wrong. Either the running back or the tight end lined up wrong. I think they were going to run split zone bluff coming off of it, and then they decided to run Q power. But I don't hate the call.
I was expecting either split zone bluff to the field like we had talked about, where you can get Jalen Monroe a little more room, or if you're going to run that Q power with the pulling guard, to run it to the boundary where they had so much success. They decided to run it to the field, and you're talking about following your offensive lineman. One thing that kept from being able to do that was Mike Sanders still off the edge. Now, there was still an opening where I think Jalen Monroe could have possibly scored, but Mike Sanders still made up for that missed tackle early in the game when he got juked when Alabama, what was it, Jason McClellan?
Yeah, first touchdown.
You know, and that's Michigan's best safety, and he made up for that misplay by at least forcing Jalen Monroe inside at the end.
If you go back and look at the play before that, too, if you're Burton, you have to push that route into the end zone. Right? You have to push that route into the end zone, then you come back and you catch that ball and you tight walk the pylon. So that's another thing, and that's an experienced receiver, too. You can't be 3 yards short for getting in the end zone catching that football. All right, let's go to Nick Newton. What's up, Nick? He says, so glad the college football played us, saved us from terrible QB play. Oh, wait, I watched Jalen Monroe last night.
I thought the QB play was bad in the Alabama-Michigan game altogether. I thought it was pretty good in the Texas-Washington.
Yeah.
Obviously two different circumstances, kind of two different styles of game. I will say, and we've talked about the Florida State thing. And look, I don't think Florida State at full strength, right? I think Michigan still wins that game if Florida State's the 4 seed. I really believe that, but I don't think it would have been some blowout. I mean, Brock Glenn threw for more yards against Georgia in a murder fest than Jalen Monroe threw against Michigan. I think everybody that's in here saying, see, told you, Florida State shouldn't have made the playoff, I think you're wrong. I think people that are saying, oh, see, told you, Alabama shouldn't have made the playoff, are wrong. I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. I stand by what I believe. I feel like Florida State should have been there, but we got a hell of a game. I mean, we knew that, though. Like you said, we knew this was going to be some blowout, right? And people saying that, oh, well, Georgia murdered Florida State in the bowl game. See, that they should have been there. That's wrong. They played against a practice squad. They played against the B team. Okay, and I'm sure we'll get into that, at some point throughout these guys played, these guys didn't, which you know how I feel about that. But
let's go to Josh Valdez. Josh, what's up, man? Someone tells me Michigan has some experience defending some decent wide receivers, playing Ohio State and beating them the last 3 years. How confident are you in Michigan's secondary?
Yeah, that team they beat had Chris Olave, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Fleming, Emike Mbuka, with C.J. Stroud throwing them the ball in the last couple of years. That's what's gotten that secondary ready. So guarding good wide receivers is the least of their problem. Well, it was, can you guard a quarterback that can take off for 85 yards at any given time? That's what we haven't seen Michigan do.
Well, here's the thing with Michigan. What's been the holdup with these teams that haven't been able to get over the hump? You're really good at one thing, but you can't defend the other, right? It used to be Alabama's just going to line up and kick your ass up front. That's what it used to be, right? Then it became, okay, you can compete up front, but out wide, if there's any extra time, you're getting melted by these cats. Now Michigan has everything. They can big boy you up front. They can hang in that game. You want to have time and run around and turn it into a scramble drill and an etch-a-sketch? That's fine. They got cats in the back end that can run with you. That's the difference. It's being a complete team. How do you win championships? With versatility. How do you win games in multiple ways? With versatility. You got to be good at everything, right? You have to have that one thing that you're best at, right? Look, you're best at making fried chicken. That's great. Make the hell of that fried chicken. But those mashed potatoes better be pretty damn good, too. Those crescent rolls better come out nice.
And they are.
Right? And they are. They always are.
The fixing's good.
That green bean casserole, it better be extra crispy, but also warm and gooey.
All right, let's go to Dr. Detroit. What's up, man? He says, Washington lost Johnson probably, which is their running back. Yeah. Michigan has Blake Corum. How much will this affect the football?
Is Johnson going to be out for the championship?
It didn't look good.
It didn't look good. Getting to the Washington-Texas game, it was about how we thought. You thought it was going to be high scoring. Mm-hmm. It was from the jump. Texas, I thought, and Michigan won't make this mistake, especially after the last game. I thought Texas should have ran it more. I thought Sark, sometimes you get these guys that are geniuses, right? Especially guys that are quarterbacks, guys that deep down, they understand balance is important, but every quarterback wants to throw the ball. Quarterbacks don't like handing it off. It's an ego trip, right? I felt like we talk about Michigan getting too cute. We talk about Alabama reverting back to kind of pre-LSU offensive Alabama. I thought Texas got a little bit too imaginative when the way was being shown, and it's a 2-for-1. Not only when you're able to run the ball, do you set the physical tone, do you move the chains, you keep that other offense off the field. But when your mindset is still, we're an offensive team, right? We're a team that wants to throw it around. We're a team that can stretch you vertically. We're a team that does all these cool combinations and gives you bastardized alignments, right? Typically, you line up inside to go outside. Well, we're going to line up outside to go outside. We're going to line up inside to stay inside and things like that. I think they got away from, hey, we are able to run the ball successfully. We can build everything off that. Let's take the shots when we can. Let's keep this offense off the field, and let's limit what Washington can do offensively. I thought Texas went away from that because I think if you want to have kind of one knock on Sark, it's that sometimes, that creativity can get him in a little bit of trouble. Sometimes you can have a little bit too much imagination. It's kind of like, the dad from Step Brothers, like, you probably don't need to be a 40-year-old man pretending to be a dinosaur in the backyard, right? Especially when like that 9 to 5 dad stuff's working, right? You don't need to lose your dinosaur, but you don't need to always be the dinosaur.
Michael Penix Jr. was the best player on the field, man. It was an absolute masterclass in how to deliver the football. And he's a great example that being a great passer is not just being a great thrower or throwing the football hard. Like, he is just truly a great passer. And when he hit, I believe it was Polk on that post route that got tipped up in the air and was still a touchdown. After that, I just thought, I never wavered in my belief that Washington was going to win the game from that moment on. And I think Texas had 5 plays in the third quarter, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, when Washington wins the time of possession, this is something interesting to think about for the Michigan game in the championship, too. Time of possession is a little bit an outdated stat. It used to be more important, like whoever wins the time of possession might win the football game. Not so much anymore with all these high-flying offenses. But if Washington wins the time of possession, they're usually going to win that football game because they can score at any moment, but then also had these like really long drives.
Yeah.
Which they do that against.
Well, because they ran the ball.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. The back half of the stretch of the season, Dylan Johnson was averaging 136 yards per game. Now you say he might be out for the championship, so we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, you put it the best. They're the most physical.
They're the most physical finesse team I've
yeah.
ever seen.
If you're Washington, this question when I asked both of you, if you're Washington, do you slow your tempo down a little bit on offense against Michigan to help out your defense at all? Because if you're scoring 4 and 5 plays, right, your defense is going to be on the field a lot. And they're going to Michigan will wear you down throughout this football game.
To me, you always have to adjust in game, right? I do think it's a little bit different if you're up later in the game, right, and you make that adjustment. But if you're out here and you're just hitting laser after laser, turn it into a fireworks show. I think Washington would rather this game be a back and forth track meet than a game that is slow and churning and, it's Michigan's has these 10, 12 play drives that are eating up 8 minutes. I think Washington would much rather play in a game where they can win 41-38 as opposed to winning a game 17-14.
Agreed.
Because I don't think Washington can consistently stop Michigan running the ball. Mm-hmm. That is the biggest advantage that Washington has is offensively is being able to, their versatility at wide receiver, throw it around, affect all 3 layers. Michigan, it's being able to run the ball. When I can run the ball like that, I can run the clock. If I can run the clock, I can control the tempo of the game. I can control the tone of the game. I don't think Washington needs to fall into the trap of let's play Michigan style. I think they need to go out there and play Washington football and adjust if they have to.
All right, let's go to Colin. Colin, what is up? He says Penix. Well, they're winning. Yes, he says Penix had 10 elite throws against Texas.
How is Michael Penix not the first quarterback taken?
That's another question. How much did his draft stock
I cannot wait to get into seeing this guy at the Senior Bowl and just how.
Well, you talk about a pro style, like what else? In college, I would take Jaden Daniels over any quarterback in this class. I really would. I'd take him over Caleb Williams. In the NFL, I think it comes down to Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. But the more I watch Michael Penix Jr., the hashes do not matter with his arm strength. It doesn't matter. The hashes are wired. That has no bearing on. If I'm an offensive coordinator in the NFL, and if anybody says anything about being left-handed, I'm going to lose my mind. If you can spin it, you can spin it. And Michael Penix can make every single throw. This was on the hype video before the game. We said it leading up to it. But what's even more impressive than his arm strength and his nuance as a thrower, being able to take a little bit off, is how quickly the ball gets out of his hand and how quickly he is able to diagnose. You did a huddle up of Michael Penix earlier where he literally knew pre-snap, right? You have an idea of where you're going with the ball, and if one thing happens, that's where you're going with the ball. His ability to diagnose and release almost at the same time is so elite, and the ball gets there so quick. You are playing faster than the defense. Mm-hmm. You really are. And I think that's the biggest advantage he has. And in the NFL, that's the game. That's the chess match. So I'm looking at Michael Penix. How's this man not the first quarterback off the board?
He certainly played his way into a first-round pick, and it was so funny last night in the Twitter trending or in the X trending to see all of these different NFL fans putting his picture with their logo, saying, can't wait for him to be the Falcons quarterback next year. Can't wait for him to be the Giants quarterback. Yeah. We need him in Denver. So it was so funny to see. And some of the injuries that he's had throughout his year, it really bodes well for him to see guys like Lamar Jackson come back this year, having the year he's had from similar injuries, or Joe Burrow having some of those same sorts of injuries, being able to.
And he's a bigger guy, right?
Yeah, and he stays in the pocket, too. He stays in the pocket.
Elite. He's elite in the pocket. His presence in the pocket is elite. The subtle nuances of stepping up, pushing out, knowing when a DN's behind you, about to get you, and can get out of it and still be under control. I'm saying Tua walked so Michael Penix can run in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, you know what he is? He's a game manager. And all the great ones are. We use that as a negative thing. Oh, he's a game manager, which means he's unathletic. No, Michael Penix is a guy with an absolute howitzer, and he's a game manager. You want to know why? Because every quarterback is a game manager, or they should be a game manager. That should be the ultimate compliment. Like a pitcher in baseball is a game manager. If you're not managing the game at quarterback or managing the game as a pitcher, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? So I was fascinated. He's incredible. Remember, if you donate, we'll read that at the end as well. One more, Blaine, and we got to get to
Okay, let me finish this one from Colin on there. He said, Penix had 10 elite throws in the Texas game. He reminds me a lot of C.J. Stroud. There are a lot of well-covered catches where the throw was just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I think
C.J. Stroud, pretty good
could
comp.
See that. I could see that comp. I think C.J.'s a little bit more mobile than what Penix
throws
is.
A little more on the run.
Yeah, I think Penix's arm's a little bit stronger than C.J. is, and C.J. has a cannon too now. Make no mistake. But Michael Penix, this is a different level of. I'm telling you, man. I look at his arm strength, and you know who I kind of see a little bit of Vic's arm strength.
It's very similar. And him being lefty, there is just something about, remember we always loved King Griffey Jr.'s swing, and part of it was just being lefty.
Oh, dude, lefty
coming from that side.
Yeah, but Ken Griffey's swing was just smooth.
Yeah, and
there's nothing about Michael.
And that's Michael Penix Jr.
motion that's smooth to me.
Well, but he throws a great ball, but he throws a beautiful ball.
I actually agree with that.
It blows my mind because he has an absolute
He's a left-handed
cannon.
Phillip Rivers.
He has an absolute cannon, and it feels like he short arms everything.
Yeah,
that's interesting. But he still throws a beautiful ball. Not that that's everything. Devin Leary throws a beautiful spiral, but he throws such a great ball, even a better ball, I think, than C.J. Stroud. Even though, look, I'd rather someone be accurate than throw a beautiful.
I'll take both of them.
Yeah.
I was going to Jared Martin. He said Penix should be the first QB taken.
I agree.
Mel Kiper didn't even have him in his top 5 QBs.
Well, Mel Kiper's a vampire. He's going to live forever, so it really doesn't matter if he's right or wrong. Like, I'm convinced Mel Kiper's a vampire. There's no way you can look at Mel Kiper Jr. and not be like, oh, that dude's definitely not a vampire. He's a vampire.
Certified vampire?
Like, listen, would it really shock you if, like, all of a sudden, like, you found out that Mel Kiper Jr., like, lived in a castle in, like, some Eastern European country? You only see him do interviews at night.
Would it surprise a little? Kind of like.
I don't think it would. I'll tell you what's not surprising.
He's the most devious.
Yeah, he's the most New York City. New York City. All right, the phone lines are open. We're going to get to them in a second. Let's get to right or wrong and rapid fire quick. I want to get to these call-ins, David. I'm sure.
Right or wrong? Okay. How about I'll start with Bowl Edition, where I was right, where most of us around the country were right. Georgia, with just the absolute beatdown of Florida State. I mean, we saw this coming from a mile away for a few reasons. One, most importantly, Florida State had basically every important starter on their team opt out of the game, which, I want to talk about that a little bit too. But Kirby Smart has proven you give him a month to prepare, and they felt they were slighted. I knew, some people were frustrated that Kirby Smart ran up the score. You had to know this was coming. to say like, hey, we deserve to be in the college football playoff. And I thought his remarks after the game were great too, because he at least acknowledged that Florida State was playing with their scout team and said, this is not a good system, what we've created, opening up free agency and having these opt-outs before the end of the season. What's a priority for college football? We need to fix this. How are we going to do it? Hopefully the 12-team playoff will solve some of that. Every opt-out before you go to the NFL, I think it's a case-by-case basis. It's a personal situation. A lot of these guys, like you always say, are playing for a lot of money. I understand it's a business decision. And some of these bowls, despite the name on it, look, Cotton Bowl is as big as it gets when I was growing up. They've been watered down by them not being playoff games. With that being said, I still was slightly disappointed in a lot of these players on Florida State's team not going in and saying, we want to prove a message. We want to prove that we deserve to be there. 15 years ago, that's what you would have seen, even in a game that wasn't the BCS National Championship. All those guys would have played.
Yeah, we're not getting that back.
Yeah.
But like the only way you make the bowls important, there's two ways. You make them playoff games, which they're doing, or you pay them money. You pay the players money. We have to understand the time we're living in. And I'm not saying you're not, but I see some people on social media. Here's the point I want to make. This whole Florida State proved that you deserve to be there. They did prove they deserved to be there.
Yeah.
They won 13 games in a Power 5 conference. Like this whole prove you deserve, it's BS. You did prove you deserve to be there. You did everything you were supposed to do, and they had you ranked where you were getting in there. That's a horrible, horrible way to put it. It doesn't make any sense in this circumstance. So you mean to tell me after you had us ranked in the top 4, we did not lose a game, we were perfect in a year where everybody came back. And I don't want to hear the word bad culture at Florida State. You don't go 13-0 with the bad culture when you built half the thing out of the transfer portal. Do you know how hard it is? You know how good your culture has to be to bring guys from other places in that aren't freshmen, that haven't developed for 3 years, and bring them together and not only win, but when your starting quarterback goes down and then your backup quarterback goes down, you still find a way to beat your rival, an SEC team, in the swamp on the road and then win the ACC championship. This whole prove it to be there, that sucks. You want to know why Georgia's players stayed? A lot of them are coming back. Carson Beck's coming back. A core of this Georgia team is coming back. Florida State has some guys coming back, but a lot of them are gone. Jordan Travis broke his leg. He's out. He can't play. Keon Coleman, he's going to the NFL. Johnny Wilson, all these guys, they're going to the NFL. They're not coming back. Spare me you need to prove it to me. They did prove it to you. And when they proved it to you, the committee spit in their face. Spit in their face. They shouldn't have played the game. I said they shouldn't have played the game. You had nothing. If they all
decided as a team, I would accept, and I agree with everything that you're saying. There is forget about even being snubbed from the playoff, just the opportunity to even go play the back-to-back national championships, no matter what the game is, whether it's a playoff game or not a playoff game. I thought that moment could be embraced. I do understand everything you're saying. I think Peter Burns at SEC Network did make one good point about not building. I don't think Florida State's built their team off the transfer portal. I think that Mike Norvell has recruited really well. But he's supplemented heavily, out of the transfer portal. And when you do that, those guys are like mercenaries for hire. They're like sellswords in Game of Thrones. It shouldn't surprise you when those sorts of guys decide to opt out for personal or selfish reasons, whatever. When someone like a Keon Coleman has only been in Tallahassee for a couple months, it's not like he's been there for 4 years like some of these guys in Athens. It makes a little more sense. The one flip side to that is Lane Kiffin has done the same thing, with the transfer portal. He convinced all his guys to play in the bowl game. I know a lot of them are coming back. They're coming back. But still, that was an example of some of these SEC teams. I mean, Nick Saban, I saw play 2 of the top 3 picks last year in his bowl game that wasn't a playoff game. Some of these coaches have a way of saying, hey, these football games still matter because only 30% of you, everybody thinks you're going to be the number 1 pick and you're going to be great. Only 30% of you are going to make a roster. Much fewer than that will make a second contract. These games at the end of your career still matter. It was disappointing to see a game that could have otherwise been so great, even with Florida State's backup quarterback. If all the other starters played, but Jordan Travis is out, I think we could have still had a heck of a game.
I think you would have had a heck of a game if it was Florida State and Michigan with the backup quarterback at Florida State. I still think it would have been a tight game. I think when you bring up Bryce Young and Will Anderson, those are program guys. I think, and that's the anomaly still.
Yeah.
That's the anomaly today. Bo Nix being a transfer, even though he was at Oregon for a while now, you kind of feel like he's half Auburn, half Oregon. Him playing in that game, I think, when you're also going to break a record,
which he did.
Which he did.
He
with
broke
Marcus
the
Mariota. You saw
completion
Malik
record for the
Neighbors
year.
playing that game against Wisconsin, broke the record. Hey, it's halftime, y'all. Thanks for the memories. I'm gone. I feel like the argument some people are making, they're making it from a high horse and they're not looking at the reality of the circumstance of where we are. It's 2023. It's not 2003. We're not going to be able to go back in time. I think Florida State got spit in their face. So you were right, obviously, about Georgia murdering them.
Most of us were.
Yeah, where I was right, I'll say in the SEC, was Missouri and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Picked them both to win, and both of them did. Now, look, Ole Miss, Ohio State, ton of opt-outs. I get that. Missouri, they won the game. It was ugly. I don't think Missouri played very well offensively. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Ohio State's defense, who did have some big-time guys play. They had some guys sit, but had some big-time guys play, especially up front. But Missouri was able to win that game. Congratulations to Drink. You talk about momentum going into next year. And then Ole Miss, right? If you look at the way that game started for Ole Miss against Penn State, it looked like Penn State was about to line up and just...
They got after Jackson Dart.
But Ole Miss was able to hold them to a field goal on that first drive. Yeah. And I do think the co-OCs for Penn State did a better job of trying to push the ball down the field than Penn State did the whole year. But Ole Miss, man, you got to give them credit. So many weapons. Ole Miss was so much better than Penn State was on the outside. That was the difference.
Well,
at any
Penn
point
State's
in time,
corner sat out.
They did, but the Cam Miller kid still is.
Dude, Ole Miss may open preseason top 5 next
They have to.
For sure.
They have to. Look at what they're doing in the transfer portal. Ole Miss and Missouri, I think both have a very, very good chance to make the playoff. I think Ole Miss should definitely be preseason top 5 going into next year. You're adding Walter Nolan. You're adding Tyler Barron. Where does Ole Miss have to take that next jump? To me, it's defensively in the front set.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss's offense, not worried about that with Lane Kiffin, with what they have coming back. Not worried about that at all. You're adding Juice Wells. I mean, oh my God, it's an embarrassment of riches. It's defensively. You lost at Georgia and you lost at Bama because they were more dogged than you up front. And it seems like you've supplemented that. I think Ole Miss next year will be this year's Florida State, hopefully minus the injury at the end. I think there's a really good chance they get in the playoffs.
What do you think about those 2 games specifically?
Well, I'm not surprised on either of these games, to be honest. I had both these teams winning. If it was Missouri versus Ohio State had really key opt-outs, and this was Missouri's Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Missouri needed this win. And I go back to the Penn State-Ole Miss game. I think Ole Miss is a more talented team, but look who sat out for Penn State. Chop Robinson didn't play in this game.
Both your corners.
Both your corners.
And your offensive linemen.
You're one of the best tackles in the country sat out this game. So I thought Ole Miss and what they're bringing back just was more. I thought Penn State played a little better than I thought they would.
Yeah.
Especially on offense. I know Ole Miss.
See, I thought they played better on defense.
I don't think Ole Miss. Well, I'm so used to Penn State's offense being anemic.
They still. Can Drew Aller do it?
We're going to have a. It's going to be a longer.
Their backup came in and made.
That was when they got the most momentum.
Yeah.
When he came in.
What was the other quarterback there? Was it Trace McSorley? You remember Trace McSorley?
Yeah.
That kid countered a little bit.
Yeah. We're going to have a long conversation about Drew Aller. I agree with you. I flipped my pick for the Buckeyes at the last second because at the end of when all things considered, really only Marvin Harrison Jr. sat out, which I get is your best player, but it was Kyle McCord entering the transfer portal and Fleming entering the transfer portal as well, all of that together. But a lot of those guys played, and plus Devin Brown playing quarterback, that was a quarterback
got hurt going first into drive.
Camp. Him getting hurt on the first drive was bigger than Marvin Harrison Jr. sitting out.
I agree.
Like that, they couldn't complete a pass. The third-string quarterback couldn't complete a pass. That defense for the Buckeyes shut out Missouri for 3 quarters, played their tail off, a lot like Michigan's defense yesterday. You can't continue to ask your defense to go out there time and time again and to continue to shut down an offense like Missouri's. It's just not going to happen. And eventually Missouri scored 14 points in the fourth quarter when you can't move the ball. So that, to me, was the bigger factor than any of the guys who transferred or sat out, really.
Agree with that. Where I was, or Blaine, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'll go quickly here. I know we're running out of time, but Tennessee versus Iowa.
Man.
This is a result I kind of knew, but Nico should have been starting quarterback for Tennessee. I truly believe this. I said Nico would be at least starting halfway through. You are limited what you have with Joe Milton, and we saw that. And if you look at the ingredients for this Tennessee team this year, hell of a defense. Hell of a front seven, and you were able to run the football. Nico could have been the difference for you in big games. The future is bright at the quarterback position at Tennessee. I'm just surprised in this kind of another year. A lot of people don't remember this. Joe Milton started in front of Hendon Hooker. Started in front of him, and Hendon had to come in the year and be the guy.
What are we seeing?
Josh, what are we looking at in practice, right? You had to see the upside with playing Nico and what he could be, especially this year. I'm just confused on how Joe Milton still finds his way into starting quarterback roles with better backups.
Well, I believe that if I don't like playing true freshmen or starting freshmen at quarterback in the SEC, I can understand why they said we need to go with Joe Milton, right? See how Joe does. We have Nico. If Joe's not the answer, we put Nico in. At some point, you had to have realized that Joe Milton wasn't the answer. And you should say, you know what? We're probably not going to win the SEC this year with Joe Milton at quarterback. We might as well put Nico in and let him go get this experience.
Yeah.
Let him go play at Alabama. Let him make mistakes, get these mistakes out. I say the same thing about Jackson Arnold in Oklahoma. If I was an Oklahoma fan, I would be ecstatic that Jackson Arnold's getting the mistakes out now. You get them out now, you get them on tape, you fix them, and you get ready to go play next year. At some point, Nico should have been put in. And then when you watched him play, and there's been times where guys have lulled people to sleep in bowl games. Joe Milton last year against Clemson looked like Poseidon, like one of the gods of war, like at quarterback. And he had a lot of momentum. He hit a golf cart from 80 yards away at the Manning Passing Academy. And that's great. But at the end of the day, this Nico Lamalaleva, I know I said that wrong, this kid's a star.
Yeah, he looks good.
He's a star. And he could do, for Josh Heupel's offense to work, the quarterback's got to be able to run. Mm-hmm. Like we've seen this. Why teams? I watched Jared Stidham had success at Auburn, right? But I watched Auburn try and run a zone read offense a couple years with a quarterback that can't run it. It's not going to work. Joe Milton can't run. He can't run. He's a big guy, right? KJ Jefferson's a big guy that can run, which is a nice fit at UCF, by the way.
Yes.
DJU is a big guy that can run. Don't trust him at Florida State. I don't think he can throw the ball. But if you're going to run a system that is an RPO system that operates at warp speed, the quarterback doesn't need to probably just be an okay runner. He needs to be an amazing runner or a runner that is somewhat of a threat to where you have to think at some point this guy can take. He's 6'6". Watch him run.
6'6", but running like that.
Running like how this guy halfway through the season.
It's interesting because I don't in Josh Heupel's offense, I don't know if the quarterback has to be a great runner. That wasn't.
I didn't mean amazing runner. He has to be good enough.
Timing. Yeah. It's so timing based with the system. Joe Milton, who impresses people with a rocket arm, who can hit a golf cart from 80 yards away in practice, that's not who has the fastball and no curveball or changeup. That's not the guy you think about for an offense like this. I thought Nico showed touch, but also the ability to run is going to do nothing but help in that offense.
Tennessee's a problem.
Yeah,
they're a problem.
All right, quickly, I'll just say where I was wrong. Wisconsin, I thought they'd get blown out by LSU the way I watched them play this year. I know that the LSU was playing Nussmeier, but he's one of the best backup quarterbacks in the country. I know Wisconsin lost at the last minute to LSU, but they put up a better fight than I thought they would. They got Tyler Van Dyke coming in from Miami. I don't know how much of an upgrade that is for Tanner Mordecai, who played good yesterday, who came back from injury.
Yeah, I thought Tanner looked like what I thought he was going to look like.
But you know what? A good showing to springboard you into next year.
Yeah, and look, balling out against LSU's defense, at least this year.
Go for it on 4th and 2, maybe.
You're not the only guy. Where I was wrong, and we're going to get to the phone calls here in a second. Auburn. I thought Auburn was going to show up. I thought Auburn was going to try and make up for blowing the game against Alabama. They didn't show up. Peyton Thorne, I just, we're going to get into that more throughout the week. I don't know how you can, and it's not just Peyton Thorne. Auburn's got problems in a lot of different places. You're bringing in a great recruiting class, but I was very just disappointed in the way that Auburn came out and just played. It's like they didn't even practice. It's like they just Maryland looked like a team that was focused, that was on a mission, that didn't have their top players, their tight end, their quarterback, any of that stuff. And Auburn came out like a team that thought they were something they weren't. Don't forget, y'all the same group got y'all's ass kicked by New Mexico State. So we're Auburn, we're just better than you. It needs to stop. I don't know what's going on in that locker room, and it takes time to trim the fat. But somebody needs to get put on the raft and pushed down the river from that Auburn locker room. There's something that stinks.
Well, look what Sark had to do at Texas.
Yeah, you saw, and that takes time. There's a couple players, Rivaldo Fairweather came out after the game, said there's some guys on some loose leashes in this locker room. So that coaching staff, if I know them the way I do, they're not going to put up with any of that stuff. You got to get the cancer out. You got to get the cancer out.
Yeah, I agree. Where I was wrong quickly, I would say the USC Louisville game. I thought Louisville would come out with all the guys in the portal. I mean, no Caleb Williams, USC, Miller Moss, first of all, fire-ass name. Second of all, you come out and throw 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
What a
You break a bowl record. And, Lincoln in the postseason hasn't been great. You look at his record as postseason, it's not good. And Brahm's been really good in bowl games and in the postseason. So I was surprised about the way Louisville came out and played.
I thought Louisville let Kentucky beat them twice. I thought Louisville let Kentucky beat them, actually beat them 3 times. I feel like they let them, Florida State
In the
championship game, and then in the bowl game. I feel like they let Kentucky beat them.
Miller Moss, what did he throw? 4 TDs in the first half, 6 overall?
Insane.
6 overall.
He was throwing dimes, man.
Yeah, I mean, you say that name to me, either you're throwing 4 touchdowns in the first half or you just went 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs.
Yeah.
But
Look,
all
I
right.
love it. All right, you want calls?
Yeah, let's get to calls.
Because I got Trey on the line in Atlanta, and I want to hear what he has to say. Trey, you're the first caller of 2024. Why don't you throw 7 different types of smoke on this call, buddy?
First of all, I got to say, look, I talked a lot of ish, David. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to give you a congratulations. And I'm going to take my crow. And I'm going to let you pot on a second. But before that, I'd be remiss if I didn't cut Voltar's legs from underneath him. Because he's going to come in here, I already know. He'll talk a lot of ish. And it's one thing you come in here, you live vicariously through another team. Like, ha, 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 you guys lost. Our team can never beat you. Ha, ha, ha. But on a serious note, Voltar, I need your help because I'm kind of inexperienced about being in the dark room. And as our leading expert in that, can you tell me, like, how long do I stay in here? What do I do while I'm in here? When can I leave?
Trey,
and then when I get out, I need you to help me make me a sandwich because I need to make David a sandwich. And you're also
hey, you know who you could really get some great advice for about being in a dark room with nothing around you? Hit up Aaron Rodgers.
Who's up?
Silent retreat.
That's exactly right.
Well,
but no, man, I mean.
But anyways, I came in here just to eat my crow and say I talked a lot of ish. And I'm not going to run from it. I'm calling. A lot of people would hide. So, David, congratulations. You guys
thank you. I wish I'd been more of a part of it. Yeah, physical on defense. When it was 20-13 and Alabama shut Michigan out in the second half before that 4-minute drive, I thought it was over. I thought it was a wrap.
Yeah,
Jake.
I mean, I don't root against anybody, but God. What a way to start the 2024 year! Just watching Alabama lose. Well, it's gonna be a great year, guys.
I wanted a great game with a great finish.
Yeah.
Either way, David was going to be pissed or my wife was going to be pissed.
Yeah.
But no, Trey, good on you for coming in here.
Can we catch a punt though? Can we catch a punt?
Don't even.
Trey.
Listen, I'm that, and David, I am sorry that you lost the stack, okay? But you won the game, so
actually, at the last minute, I shied away from the stack. I put $250 instead. I said $250 is enough where I can deal with my in-laws at Thanksgiving next year, and I can go out and have a nice dinner at the Red Pony.
If somebody would have told you, if all of a sudden a magic genie would have popped up and said, David, if you give me $250, Michigan will beat Alabama. You would have given that.
Well, this is why I told my dad when I put the $250 on. I said, I would even go up and do the stack. Like I said, I'll put $1,000 for Michigan to win. I would do that, even though they don't pay me any money, which, look, they can start at any time. That would be worth a playoff win over Alabama to me. But the $250 at the end of the day is great. I've never been so happy to lose a bet.
How much is that? Is a Michigan win worth in the college football playoff? About $250.
About $250. And there's some people who are going to make good on some bets. My wife is one of them. Chris Marler is one of them. I will not be doing the pregnancy simulator with Michael Knowles because that's what I signed up for.
Yeah,
why?
Anybody checked on Chris?
Hey, can I ask you a question? Michigan, we're in every hype video on Crane & Company on the planet. Y'all don't put us in the Michigan?
Every hype video we're in, but Michigan.
Cotton Bowl. I think we're in the Pop-Tart Bowl. The Hold My Hands, let's walk down the hallway.com Bowl.
You know what it is? I speak a little too much truth for them, I think.
Maybe
I criticize them when they deserve to be criticized. Maybe they don't like that. But Trey, we appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Trey.
Thanks for coming in, brother.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, he talked about Voltar, didn't he?
Yeah.
We got Voltar.
Quick.
Josh, North
Bring
Carolina.
him in. All right,
what do you
Josh.
have to say to that?
Oh, I mean, I got a playlist he can use. I can send it to him in the DM.
Oh, man. Is Where Are You on there?
Oh, yeah. It's Where Are You?
Yeah.
I'm All Alone,
Yeah. I know this playlist.
I also got my girlfriend here because I told her I thought Bama would win, and I'm a coward because I picked Michigan to win it all at the beginning of the year, and I should have picked with it. But I'm just going to let her talk her ish because I was wrong and she was right. So.
I love it.
Wow, Josh's girlfriend. What's up?
Hi, go Blue.
Yeah,
Yes, Josh's girlfriend.
Freedom,
Mrs.
Voltar.
Like my life is kind of like that Bird Box movie with Sandra Bullock, except it's just Michigan, Alabama fans everywhere. Like that's it. That's like I just need to put a blindfold on and have somebody just walk me around.
Voltar,
everywhere.
You need to let Mrs. Voltar have the phone more often when you call in.
All right. Well, I will do, but I'm just happy Michigan was able to do it, and I bet Alabama, and I told her my reasoning, kind of similar to David's reasoning. I was like, well, if Alabama wins, I could take her out to a nice steak dinner. Mm-hmm. Now Michigan won, so now everybody's happy. So
well, now we're eating bologna and mayonnaise sandwiches, which there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, can I throw out a little life hack here?
Hit me.
Take your bologna, okay, put it, you can do it in the microwave or you can do it on the stovetop. Mm-hmm. You get some Easy Mac. You make the Easy Mac. You put the bologna and you cook it till the bologna bowls up and turns into a bowl. You put the Easy Mac into the bologna bowl. You eat the Easy Mac, then you eat the bowl. How about that?
That's the fattest thing ever.
I eat sardines with Nutella. I'll try it.
Oh, no. Look. Sardines with Nutella, no. You talking about Hell's
Josh,
breakfast?
And thank you, Mrs. Voltar.
Yes. All right, man. Hey, Nico, let's go. Let's go.
Nico. Devil Doc in Indiana. What are you thinking on this Tuesday?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What's up?
Great, man.
He's in.
So, first off, I thought we had both of those games yesterday, I thought were just phenomenal.
They were. Really, two different ways, right? You got two different types of phenomenal games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the first one was like, it was like, I'm like, are we going to score some points here? Like, I mean, you got Alabama and Michigan. They're both going to score. I thought it was going to be a shootout, honestly. And I was obviously wrong. It's a great game. Michael Penix, though, for the second game, I mean, absolutely unbelievable. Some of the throws he was able to make, like the way he was just like stayed in the pocket, didn't like, he didn't get stressed out. He didn't start panicking. He didn't like try to move around. Sometimes he just took those hits as he was throwing those balls. And like I think you guys have all said before, like he throws the prettiest pass in college.
That thing's, well, we hear spin rate in baseball a lot, right? You hear spin rate. Yeah. He's got a good spin rate. I don't know if any ball in America spins more over like a 20-yard distance than Michael Penix's. Like, I feel like if Michael Penix threw that into the side of a mountain, the ball would burrow like 3 or 4 feet.
If we're NASA, why are we not looking at this?
Yeah.
Where's Oppenheimer when you need him?
But it's not exactly just a fastball like Joe Milton. Joe Milton's spin rate must be through the roof too, right?
True.
But he's a passer. Yeah. It's the accuracy. It's the touch. It's all the things you need to do to deliver the football to a specific area of the field. Hole shots versus cover two to the field.
You have throwers
insane.
And you have passers. Yeah. Those are two totally different things. Yeah. Why can some guys play for longer that don't have strong arms? Because they're passers. Mm-hmm. It's two totally different things.
I think next week's game, I think it's going to be one of the better national championship games in the past.
Shootout. I'm calling it. I'm calling it.
Phenomenal game. But before I go, I do have to say something about. We haven't been able to call in, so I haven't been able to talk to you about the last two games that we've seen. That my Baltimore Ravens completely dismantled the 49ers.
So hot right now.
And the Dolphins. I'm just saying, it doesn't look – who can beat us right now?
Well 56 to 19 or something?
Everybody said 49ers are going to destroy us. We beat them 33 to 19. Everybody said Dolphins were going to beat us. We beat them 56 to 19. I'm just saying, it doesn't look like it can be stopped. My thing with the MVP race, people talk about stats. I disagree sometimes. You don't always look at the stats. You watch the games and look at what Lamar Jackson does, extend the play, look at the plays he makes, look at how defensive schemes and play calls have to be different when he's on the field. It's just a no-brainer to me. That's my
it's amazing how good Lamar Jackson is when you actually give him weapons. Past couple of years, I've said, and I think one of the reasons Lamar wanted to leave, the man had no help. He had no help.
Yep.
This isn't basketball. This isn't baseball. You've given him Zay Flowers. You just look around right now, and this is with a Mark Andrews that's been banged up. You give Lamar Jackson weapons, and he becomes weapon X. It's that simple to me.
And we're going to be talking about this a lot tomorrow. We have a lot of NFL stuff.
Their defense helps a lot, too. Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen running around is scary.
Yeah, but I mean, the Ravens have had good defenses, right? Like, defenses really hadn't been the Ravens' problem.
These last 2 games, especially like the turnovers at this defense. I know Lamar somewhat deserves the MVP, but the Baltimore defense won Lamar the MVP in that.
Well, Kyle Hamilton being as good as he is shocks me, as bad as he is in the hips. It shocks me. Maybe because he's a long strider, he can eat up more ground. It has surprised me how good Kyle Hamilton is.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking about the MVP race tomorrow. We're also going to be talking about the Lions-Cowboys ending and Russell Wilson and all of that stuff. So we're going to break that down. But thanks for calling, Devil Doc.
Great call, man.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go to Michael in Texas. Michael, how you doing?
What's up, Mike?
Good morning, fellas. Happy New Year. And David, go blue, baby!
Go blue to you, sir.
Talk your ish.
Championship bound, Michael.
I was with my family last night watching that game, and after we stopped Milroe on 4th and goal, I think I would not be surprised if the entire state heard us screaming.
Oh, dude. Well, I wonder, Michael, I do want to say this. I do want to say this. Last night for Michigan was the greatest example, and Blaine says this all the time, of there were 2 holes in my wall at the end of the game, and we won.
Yeah, there you go.
That was the perfect example.
Well, exactly. And you know, you guys touched on it a little bit. Our special teams, oh my God, I don't know what happened, but that my little brother said it. If we didn't have those screw ups, so missed extra point, the drop punt, we were beating them. We were bullying them. We were the better team last night. I don't think it's an argument, you know, to say we were doing better than Bama was.
And the only thing that saved us was they made their mistakes too. They made their mistakes, too. I think Michigan in many moments panicked in that game. But just like what Jake was saying, Alabama played as badly as they possibly could against Auburn, and they found a way to win because the belief never wavered. For the first time, I've seen Michigan win a game like that when they didn't play great. I've seen them play great the last couple times they played the Buckeyes and win those games. I haven't seen them win like this before.
Let's just make sure we're giving the credit to this Michigan damn defense.
Defense, for sure.
This defense, and we've talked about this. Yeah. You go back to what P.J. Fleck said when they played each other. This is they don't make mistakes on defense.
5 sacks in the first half.
5 sacks in the first half. Physical, smart, no, realistically, not a lot of busts if you look on the Michigan side. A lot of weird busts on Alabama's defense at key moments. They wouldn't guard a running back on third.
It's amazing.
Blew my mind. Malachi Moore had he had a rough game against Michigan, a rough game. Michigan didn't, at least on defense, you controlled the line of scrimmage, and you didn't beat yourself.
Yeah, well, listen, Alabama didn't play great, but make no mistake, Michigan spotted Alabama 11 points. They fumbled the punt that led to a touchdown. That's 7. You miss an extra point and a field goal. The field goal was missed because it was another bad snap. I don't know if a lot of people saw it, and I'm the first guy to blame. I was a special teams guy. The kicker's got to be able to adjust this, that, and the other. That timing was so thrown off. You spot them 11 points, right, and you won by 7. So I do agree Michigan was the better team. Not that Alabama played perfect, right? But Alabama did not give Michigan nearly as many points, or really any at all, as opposed to Michigan giving Alabama 11.
True.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say one more thing. As a Michigan fan for most of my life, is seeing in the past when we've been in situations like last night and we folded, and it proved a lot of people wrong, even proved me and my family wrong. Because we had that inevitable sense that Bama was going to put us away because of the way they were running with Milroe in the second half. But for us to respond when we were trailing the second half for the first time all year, to come back like we did, to make the huge plays that we made, Roman Wilson with the catch, Blake Corum with the touchdown, by the way, to win the game for us in the end. It speaks a lot about this team, this year's team, and it really makes me believe. I'll call next week to talk about the Washington game next week, but I believe I'm 100% all in, ready for next Monday.
Well, I saw some on social media, Michigan fans are like, you know what? I would not have rather won that game any other way. Like I'm glad.
Really?
I saw.
Let's catch a punt.
Let's catch a punt. It's only fitting that Michigan overcomes adversity to win the game. bull. I would rather my team win 1,000-0.
Yeah.
I don't want to sweat this thing
Here's
out.
the biggest thing, though, Michael. The job is not finished. If you exhale, if you take a sigh of relief that you finally beat Alabama, you finally beat Nick Saban and an SEC team in the college football playoff, if you blink once like you did against TCU last year, Washington will beat you by double digits. The job is not over. You came this far. Win the whole thing.
Without a doubt.
I love it, Michael. Thank you, buddy. Go Blue, man. Call in next Monday morning.
Happy New Year, Mike.
All right, let's go to Texas Ed down in Texas. He has a perspective on last night's game. How you doing, Ed?
Did somebody say something about being in a dark room?
Yeah.
How you feeling, man?
Oh, I'm good. Happy New Year to everybody on and off camera. Y'all are great.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for letting me get on the line. A couple of things about the game last night. I think it's not being talked about enough. Michael Penix's teleporting ability within the pocket, because that defensive line was getting there. He was just not there when they showed up. It was amazing to see him just move within the pocket. And those Velcro hands from those receivers, I could not believe how sticky they were when the ball was down the field. It was truly a sight to behold, you know, how sticky those hands were 70 yards down the field. But a couple things on the Texas side, we could not get out of our own way. Those
Texas Ed, run the ball. Run the ball. Run the ball.
Okay, so, you know what? 2 fumbles by the running backs, one of them in the third quarter, which kept Washington holding the ball for the entirety of the third quarter, put you 13 points down, and you have to throw at that point.
No, I'm not talking about the second. I'm talking about the first half. Like, you were blue, and they were gashing Washington at some points. It was the same thing Michigan did. You would hit 2 huge runs and then throw it 3 straight times. Like, I get you run play action off of it. You can't just line up and run it. But it got to that point, I felt like Texas could have controlled the game more. I think you're going to see more of that by Michigan, but I feel like Texas could have controlled the game more if they would have stuck with what's working instead of gotten cute, and then you had to start playing catch-up. Now you turn it over. Now you've got to start throwing it at an incredible rate.
And that's the exact point that I made at the start of the season. There's some point where Sark has to realize that his plays can work, and he does not have to keep referring back to these creative ideas in the middle of a game when you are gashing teams with what is working. Mm-hmm. So I'm totally with you on that one.
Well, I point to a lot of this. You brought up the Michael Penix point, which that D-line was getting to him a lot in this game. You know how many sacks Texas had in this game?
How many?
0.
Yeah.
They had 0 sacks in this football game. That's how good Michael Penix is in the pocket.
And the offensive line.
But I do think, we've talked about this Texas defense the entire year, able to get to the quarterback and do what else? Stop the run. If you're not going to get to Michael Penix, it's the same thing with Jalen Milroe. You can bring him, that's fine. But if you don't get to him, you're screwed.
Well, there's a beauty. Obviously, we love watching the big plays outside of the pocket when the quarterback extends the play and rolls right, shakes a tackle, hits a guy deep. Alabama made a living and made a killing off of it this year. But to me, it's way more beautiful, just from a football aesthetic standpoint, when you have a quarterback that extends the play from within the pocket, because maybe they're not the most fleet of foot outside of the pocket. There is a beauty and a nuance to that as well. Not only that, but you know how else you don't get sacked? It's you throw the hot. Mm-hmm. What is the hot? When they blitz, you throw it where they blitz from. Yeah. And Michael Penix gets the ball out of his hand, I talked about this earlier, quicker than just about anybody, and it's got to be so deflating. It almost makes you, and I hate blitzing from depth, it almost makes you have to do it, because at least he's not going to sit here and see it and just spit it. I'll just spit it to the tight end. Spit it to the back.
I thought Michigan did a good. It sounded like Michigan blitzed from depth. They just blitzed timely, right? The backers would wait,
and they stunted.
They would wait, and then they would go. If you're going to do, that's how you're going to have to do.
Well, they kept running swipe.
Yeah.
2 away, 1 over. 2 away, 1 over.
And I love the point Texas had on Michael Penix Jr. in the pocket. My favorite quarterback growing up was Dan Marino. Far from a mobile guy, but he moved so well in the pocket. That's a different skill set. Drew Brees, because that's a different skill set than just being fast and being able to run away from guys. That moving in the pocket and anticipating pressure while you still keep your eyes downfield and never looking at the pressure, That's a skill set that few guys have, man.
Well, I think that took Jordan Travis and Jaden Daniels' game to the next level.
True.
They could both scramble outside of the pocket, but when they started sticking in there, sometimes they could kill you from there too. Well, now I got to defend everything.
Yeah.
We're in a lot of trouble.
Appreciate it, Texas Ed.
Texas Ed, thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Great season, too, with Texas. You know, I mean,
Doesn't it feel like Texas is like Georgia had to go through those steps year by year to get there? Michigan had, and Georgia got there. Michigan had to go through those steps year by year to get there, and they got there. Seems like Texas is now starting the same trek. You know, you wonder how long. Now you're going to the SEC. We'll see. It's fascinating.
It was good to see them this season have the success they did, though.
It was.
Loved it. All right. Appreciate it, callers. Chase, Kirk, everybody else on the line. Y'all call in tomorrow. We got a full week of this, guys.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We'll try and get to y'all earlier tomorrow. There's just so much to get to today. All right. I'm going to head over and do bets. Then we're going to get to donos. Oh, my leg's not asleep today. What a good start. Guys, incredible year betting. Incredible year. I mean, won a lot of money in everything. NFL, college, just great job, everybody. Let's get off on the right foot on 2024. Went 4-2 yesterday. We got college hoops. All right,
We're gonna
start talking about that, guys. We're in January, which again, I'm not a calendar scientist, but I know that means March is coming.
The constellations here.
Yeah, it's Osiris.
The sundials
Orion,
here. I should have put lettuce on my BLT.
Yeah, that's exactly right. FAU tonight at home. F who? FAU.
You taking them too?
Minus 17.5.
Yeah.
That's at minus 108. Like them time. I think it's East Carolina.
Right? It is East Carolina.
It is East Carolina. Then give me Tennessee at home against them folks. Norfolk State. Minus 23.5. That's going off at minus 110. College hoops. Come on.
I love the FAU pick, man. Ranked 17th in the country. They're 10-3. I'm going to take them minus 17.5. You said that's minus 108?
That's minus 108.
Okay, minus 108. And then, how about those Auburn Tigers? Give me the Auburn Tigers against Pennsylvania. Auburn 10-2 right now. That's minus 21.5 on the line, minus 110.
All right, I'm going to go the opposite way here. Okay,
Smart.
Give me Penn plus 21.5. Hedging my emotions a little bit here. I think they cover, but I do think Auburn wins. And give me the Warriors money line. They were playing at home today. Little NBA bets getting started.
How are they playing?
I might start venturing in the first basket. We'll see how.
Really?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I might start. I did a lot of things good when it comes to first this year, so I think I might stay in that boat.
Nice. Ace, he's going to go with Purdue at minus 5.5 tonight. They got that monster running around in the middle underneath there. Then Tennessee and Norfolk State under 138.5. Like that pick, Tennessee defensively. I'll lock you up, throw away the key. All right, Donos, what do we got?
All right, let's roll through these real quick. We're going to Jordan Kilgo with a $2 donation. He says, "Go Blue, David Cohn. Congratulations."
Feels good, man.
Let's go to Steve's Action Figure Frenzy.
Stevie.
See if I can pull this up. Wafting. He says, like I said on X yesterday, it's $10 donation. Steve, thank you. True Buckeye fans were rooting for Michigan yesterday. It's more about the conference than hating your rival at this point. Happy New Year, fellas, and the Booster Club. Steve.
It's an interesting take because I saw mostly the opposite. Mostly the opposite. From
I would think you probably got more opposite than that. By the way, let's throw the merch link in there. This Lady Ballers candle smells incredible.
Yeah, let me get a whiff of that too.
This is the best smelling candle we got.
Is it?
They said it's cherry, but man, it smells like strawberries and friendship.
I like it. It's my favorite.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Hold on. Yeah, y'all talk amongst yourselves real quick while I try to get back in this.
Ooh.
Actually, you're right.
They're locking you out.
Yeah,
Russians?
dude. They don't want us to be great today.
Screaming at you on social media. By the way, David Cohn, we said he looks like every person in the world. I didn't know you were Mark McGuire.
All right,
David.
that one.
Bro, this looks exactly like you.
That one I can't fight. That's eerie.
Like when did Mark McGuire ever look like that?
Someone sent this to us on social
Instagram.
media, and I was like, Mark McGuire, what are you talking about?
Look at that.
And then I looked at it.
That's weird.
Dude, that's rookie Mark
David,
McGuire.
you are every person in the world put together.
Are you a shapeshifter?
No. David is a human collage.
That's
weird.
What
he is. That's what he is.
Yellow
King. Only he could look like Elon Musk and Mark McGuire.
You're going to Yellow King me?
You're the Yellow King.
From True Detective?
No
You're the
way.
Yellow King, dude.
That's like the most evil villain in television.
Well, it's more
Stop
of you.
doing
It's
that.
more of you. Just like you put on different faces.
At some point, man, I'm
Yellow
starting to
isn't, I know
really.
it's made.
At some point, it gets really, really difficult to combat the alien. narrative.
Yeah, you're running out of excuses.
Like, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
I don't remember coming from another planet.
How many lives have you lived?
Well, again, I don't remember coming from another planet, but I see stuff like this.
I haven't seen you
I saw you blink like this the other day.
side to
Like the
side.
guy,
to side.
like
Men in Black.
Men in Black.
That man is not real.
They were gills.
All right, let's go to Justin Mullen. I got it. $2 donation. Hey, guys, who won fantasy football? Justin, I did. That's who.
Huh? I thought you got put out in the semis.
No, never.
Yeah, you did.
No, let's go to CG87343 with the $10 donation. Just keep the refs from the Lions games out, and we got one heck of a natty. Hopefully lots of offense. Also, hats off to Corn for breaking the scoring record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go to Broken Devil Dog with a $5 donation. It's 5 a.m., but still go blue. Rose Bowl. It was insane to be there. I still can't believe it.
What a
Yeah, y'all beat
legend.
Bama in the Rose Bowl.
That's crazy.
Pretty dope.
Freedom. Ryan Gade with a $5 donation. Hashtag Smack Talk. UNC fans hated Lady Ballers. Hashtag Country Road. Take me home. Let's go to Brian Hall with a $5 donation. $25 on a 10-legger for $18K with Bama plus 3.5.
Oh, yeah.
And Washington plus 7.5.
You had to let that ride,
Talk
man.
about the worst
Because the buyout wasn't enough, right?
You
We
had
talked
the
about
buyout was like at 2,700. You have 8 to win 18,000. Bama plus 3.5. I do agree with you. You probably should have teased that one up to 7.5. But I mean,
No, it's a good bet.
I mean, you hit every one but one, and Bama lost in OT.
That's what when it hit OT, you knew you were screwed. Let's go to Sergeant Saggy Nips with a $10 donation. Welcome back.
There he is.
Let's go. Michigan finally gets over the hump. Where are these Michigan haters at now? Yeah, I don't see all the people saying
they in
they're
the chat
only good
today?
because they stole signs.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where are
that's
those people
dead.
at?
Put it
That's
to rest.
dead.
Yeah, I wonder what happened with that. Sir Potatoes, also known as David's dad, with a $10 donation. Jake is mid, who's Blaine, can't even spell my name right, and David is the star.
Sir of Potatoes.
Yeah, that's 100% codes. Papa Cone, why don't you just say it's you?
Let's go to Max Destruction Can with a $5 donation. Max, appreciate it. Anyone just happy that ESPN has to remove the SEC from this conversation for the championship?
Look, do you see the graphic where they put Bama number 1?
Yeah, I did. I tweeted to you that was when I put in officially the $250 bet because I said, "What sign are we trusting on this?"
Subconscious.
Is it an ESPN bias thing or is it? Hey, they already know the outcome and it's scripted.
And I don't know. It's stuff.
I didn't know what to do.
All right, let's go to Chase Mills with a $5 donation. Boys, I have an idea for your QB situation in Auburn. I think you might like.
All right, I'll
Let's
do it.
talk tomorrow, please.
Chase, call in tomorrow. Pongo.
Carson Everett with a $20 donation. Congrats, Michigan and David. Darby Lou, I'm with you in misery. Can I get some prayers for my wife and I for IVF transfer in 2 weeks? Roll Tide.
Yeah, prayers sent, man.
Best
Good
of
luck
luck
with that.
Best
Good
of luck,
with
man.
that.
I know some friends who've just had success with it as well. So
Let's go to Nate Boy. 123
Nate
last
Boy.
donation of the day. It's a $5 donation. Do any of you believe in Jesus? Go blue. There is a God.
It's like they said, I do now.
All right, appreciate all the donations, chat. You were great. Let's get to the poll. Who wins the national championship?
Ooh, this is interesting.
Washington
There's a lot of Michigan fans.
or Michigan?
75%.
I would say 68% Michigan.
Michigan.
All right, Michigan, 66.
Wow, you're on it. You're tapped
Washington,
in early in the year to the Pulse.
In touch. Definitely. All right, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Grab some merch. Grab some of that Z-Biotics, too. I know some of y'all are feeling it this morning with Z-Biotics. You'll be feeling amazing, right? We appreciate you guys. Got a great week of shows lined up. Excited to be back. Hope you had an unbelievable Christmas and a happy New Year. Praying for you, Miss Trudy. You know we love you here at Crane & Company. And like the chances of the SEC having a team in the national championship? What? We're going. Woo! It's a good start. Got mittens. I could play for Washington. We're going, gone.